Hello, my dear friends. Hello, Newman. Hello, beautiful community. As Vlad Wexler says, I hope that his health will improve. All right. So we have a morning stream here in Germany. It's 10 a.m. and I hope that our friends from New Zealand, Australia, that part of the world, will have chance to see my streams as well, at least once in a while. United States are sleeping mostly, but they watch me all the time. So we will talk about the recent incident that took place over North Europe when a bunch of drones were spotted flying over Oslo in Norway, over Copenhagen in Denmark, reportedly over Sweden as well. I tried to find some more or less confirmed information about that. I couldn't. Looks like a false alarm to me, but maybe I just didn't look well. So what we know at this point is I prepared some details for you and also some of my thoughts. We know that tonight Copenhagen airport in Denmark was shut for approximately 4 hours after 2 or 3 large unidentified drones flew repeatedly in the close proximity of the airfield. And police, from what we know, choose not to shoot them down because of the safety risks. If they're flying over the airfield, you know that there's a lot of fuel farms, a lot of different infrastructure, of course, passengers, airplanes. And that is why they decided not to intercept those airplanes with man-pads or maybe small arms fire. So there were a lot of flights were delayed, approximately 30 diversions and almost 100 delays and cancellations. And only after 3 a.m. the airport reopened. In Oslo Gardermoen, Norway, there were also restrictions. Coincidentally, at the very same time, for approximately 3 hours after 2 drones were sighted the same night in the area of Oslo airport. Investigation ongoing on whether those 2 incidents are connected, one in Copenhagen and one in Oslo, and also we have unconfirmed information so far. The media talk about it, but again, I couldn't find any reliable information that 2 men actually were detained in Norway for flying a commercial drone in the restricted area. Police described the drone operators as highly skilled. No details so far on who they are. Again, maybe I didn't search well, but so far couldn't find anything new. Authorities have not attributed these drones to any state. Also, media and officials explicitly note that no confirmation of a Russian possible link, despite all the drones that were flying from Russia, but it's like who those drones could belong to. We don't know, but definitely not Russia at this point, right? Why in my video, why on my thumbnail I'm saying that those drones are Russian drones that invade Europe, while authorities explicitly say that they are not Russian, or it's not yet established that they are Russian. So first of all, drones fly from Russia or from Belarus to Europe already, right? Last week we already saw a case or several cases in Poland and Romania. And also we gotta analyze all possible versions, all right? And version number 1, of course, which is absolutely obvious to me, like who those drones could belong to. I think like Albania, 100%, because Albania and also Austria, we all know that those two countries have this secret plot of world domination, and they are known for, waging hybrid war and using drones against the civilized West. Guys, if police thought this way, all right, they would never solve any case, all right, any crime. There are just two main versions, in my personal opinion, as a former cop, all right. One is prank/sabotage, and second is reconnaissance. And if police, investigating every case in their practice, they would go like, well, the murderer could be, I don't know, anybody, They would never solve any crime, because you should always ask yourself, what is the motive? What is behind this? What could be the reason? Who could be the potential organizer who can be behind the scenes of this incident? At this point, I think it's very, very obvious that there is only one country that could be responsible for those drones flying over Copenhagen and most probably Oslo, right? Because again, we don't know much details on what happened in Norway. Ali, hello, it's very good to see you. I made you coffee and I already drank it. Vatican Special Ops, absolutely, Tom, absolutely. So version number one, prank/sabotage/stupid people, because sometimes you encounter not really smart individuals who buy themselves drones and just literally fly them. And I had a drone back in HOSTOMEL, and HOSTOMEL is located next to the airfield, right? So that area is twice as restricted, because you cannot fly drones in the vicinity of the airport, and of course you cannot fly anything unauthorized at this moment over Ukraine. But despite that, I would launch my drone from time to time, to test it and stuff like that. And then I would just go to my kitchen and prepare coffee for a possible visit from security service of Ukraine. But that's regarding the stupid people, all right? So sometimes you encounter such individuals that literally don't know rules much. Happened a lot in my police practice as well. The second reason that is also plausible, I think, is prank/sabotage. Sabotage meaning disruption of flights. Prank could also be, I connect those two, because basically if those people were either recruited by Russians or they were Russian themselves that launched those drones, those two reasons are closely related. So reports say that there were big drones, all right? How big were they? It's a different question, because big is an abstract term. They could be as big as Russian S-70 Охотник, the size of a fighter jet, or it could be just big compared to, I don't know, like an FPV, all right? So if they used something like Mavic, Mavic is a bit bigger than, Mavic 3 is a bit bigger than FPV, not much. But again, it depends. Could they be big enough to be detected by radars? Maybe that's the case, but again, unfortunately, we don't know much information on that. So what I think could have happened. First of all, what type of drones could have been used if they were Russians, which I am 99% sure. 99% goes to Russia and 1% goes to Albania and Austria, of course. Just kidding. I believe that if the authorities report that big drones were used, I think that most obviously those were something like Orlan, maybe fixed-wing drones. Orlan, you, I think, are most probably acquainted with those. They look like tiny airplanes. Just a bit longer than 1 meter. Just a bit. Actually, no, like quite longer than 1 meter, like 1.5, as far as I remember. I don't remember the specifications, but I remember them visually because we captured quite a few of those, and you probably remember the unboxing of the Russian drone that I made earlier in 2022 with my guys from the reconnaissance, and that one is still on my channel somewhere. Could be Orlan. I doubt that it was something like Zala, because Zala has shorter range, shorter endurance, not really designed to do the task that those drones did. And also I think it was definitely not Russian S-70 Охотник, the stealth drone, because it costs like a budget of whole Podmoskovia, and they not reasonable to use them for the operation, for the goals that they pursued in the Danish and Norwegian sky. Also, there's always risk, if the drone is intercepted and it's revealed, by the authorities. There's also risk because on the Охотник there's like those big red stars, and it's obvious that Russians incurred the airspace. If it's like Arlan, there's nothing on it. Seriously, there's just a photo camera installed on it and basically nothing else, and a bunch of Chinese and Philippine parts in it. Ellie says, doesn't sound like hobby drones. Yeah, can only be aliens, 100%. Russians would never do that. So why did the Russians, or why could the Russians send those drones to Denmark? Norway, again, not 100% sure that Russians were involved. Coincidence is there. We can see that the drones were used over airports in both places at the same time, but not sure. Cannot tell you. But I also checked out several opinions on that, and several experts believe that there are quite a few reasons why Russia could send drones into the Nordic airspace. First of all is testing defenses. Again, if we take a look at what happened in Poland earlier last week, we can see that Russians used primarily Gerbera drones. So Gerbera usually, all right, in most cases, Gerbera doesn't have a warhead. It has a compartment, but it doesn't carry charge, and it's used as this distraction drone and surveillance drone, because they have obviously a lot of different sensors and cameras installed on them. And Arlan, by the way, also has different equipment installed to relay the data and to relay the radio communication in general. So they want to control other drones in the area using, for example, one specific drone. This makes them very, very hard to suppress using, for example, electronic warfare measures that we have in Ukraine. So one thing was testing defenses, meaning that the drones may have been checking how quickly airports, police, and the military react to this hazard. It could also help to map out radar coverage, all sorts of emitters, blind spots, and rules of engagement on the ground. Also causing disruption because, as you know, every time, for example, good Ukrainian drones fly towards Russia, there's this ковер. How to explain this? The plan ковер that Russians invented. Ковер is basically a carpet in Russian language. So this plan of action is about shutting down, delaying flights and everything else, which, by the way, causes a lot of problems for Russians. They use a lot of money, literally billions of dollars, every single time they shut down their major airports, Pulkovo, Vnukovo, etc., etc. And also, Russian airplanes are not really allowed to fly over Europe. Why? Because Russia is sanctioned by companies like Airbus and Boeing, and majority of their aviation fleet, as you probably know, is not serviced by those countries. So it cannot be insured, and it cannot be allowed to fly in the civilized airspace. Could be one of the reasons, the disruption, because closing airports for hours is cheap for the attackers, but at the same time it's also expensive for the society. It could have disrupted travel, trade, public trust, classic gray zone tactics that create pressure without using the open conflict. Intimidation, misfires says, could be. Rehearsing future operations. It's another interesting thought that I found, because these flights could serve as practice for more advanced missions in the future. And we're talking about Denmark, situated in a specifically interesting spot, right, near the Baltics. So yeah, sounds more or less plausible to me. Operators may have been testing long-range controls, GPS tricks, or avoiding electronic jamming. Logical question, where those drones could have been launched from, because they could be launched either from the ground, and then we are talking not about Orlans, but most probably about big commercial drones, maybe octocopters, or since Denmark is located, as if you saw it on the map, in the close proximity to the sea where Russian terrorists operate their vessels, their shadow fleet as well, then this drone could have been launched from a vessel as well, which I think maybe is even more probable. Spying on infrastructure, because as I already mentioned, airports are tied to fuel, to power, transport networks, and also surveillance could support sabotage or cyber attacks later. Interesting fact about this drone sighting, and tell me if you noticed this as well. Interesting fact is that this incident happened literally days after the number of huge cyber attacks that basically temporarily paralyzed some of the major European airports. I know that, for example, Berlin International Airport was also paralyzed literally a couple of days ago. There was a hack committed in the calling system, and that was used also by the apparently Russian hackers. So it's very interesting that actually this incident, those drones were spotted literally days after this cyber attack. And also among the possible reasons, we have sending a message. Flying drones over NATO countries shows reach and boldness. Basically, it's a favorite Russian game. It's like, you know that I know, right? You know that I know you know. Europe knows that they're Russian. Russians know that Europe knows that they're Russian, but diplomatically, like, all right, nobody can prove anything. GK, danke sehr. I would love to go to Frankfurt, maybe in the nearest future. I stay in the North Rhine-Westphalia, and if you are here, I would definitely have coffee with you, my friend. If I'm there, it's like 3-4 hour drive. I will let you know. Please send me an email, all right? So we keep in touch. Tom Labos, find espionage less likely. Russia has people inside facilities giving better information. Yes and no, like Germans say, jein. So they can have, of course, a lot of spies around the world. The question is, do you believe that Russia is so powerful so they literally have spies like sitting in every Danish house? I don't think so. Can they recruit people for money to do that? I guess. Do they have so much money to bribe everyone? I doubt that. And also, of course, they often recruit or hire through messengers and different social media. They hire spies, like not professional agents, but literally some kind of drug addicts, hobos, etc., like we could observe in Ukraine many times. But those people would unlikely be working in airports, all right? People working in the airports, they have much bigger motivation not to get hired. Brigitte, thank you very much. I will keep that in mind. Actually, I think it's probably a good opportunity to throw some new meeting with our friends here in Germany, because I didn't do that. I met a lot of members of our little family in Sweden, in Netherlands as well, but in Germany not yet for some reason. So what else? Sending message. So first of all, flying drones over NATO airspace. And Russians will always be saying they're not our drones. Europeans will always be saying no, they're your drones, and they will understand the threat. And it's actually a big message for European authorities, for European military. The very fact that those drones can reach so far that they cannot be intercepted or located using radars as fast as expected, as reliably as expected. So that can be, of course, another reason. And it's like everybody knows that they're Russian, but no reaction is not like no reaction. Nothing can be done to prevent them from launching those drones again. That is the problem. HRM says, it feels like Europe is just going to accept Russian aggression. I'm ashamed of NATO and their pathetic attitude. Emotionally, I agree with you. Diplomatically, they are doing what I would most probably do myself. I would pretend not to have any reaction. And factually, what NATO forces in Europe are doing right now, I'm not mentioning the US forces, I'm mentioning the European NATO forces, is that the guys are preparing. Actually, I can tell you that quite a few countries are now inviting Ukrainian volunteers to receive their experience, to train European NATO troops. According to Ukrainian experience, it's very important. And if your country is not doing this today, I would be ashamed of that. Yeah, but generally speaking, I can say that majority European countries are actually doing very, very important work right now. Ruth Wolfer is if the drones are not from the observed facilities, they should be shot down 100%. They should be shot down and investigated where they came from and things like that. What else? What the behavior of those drones? What it tells us? First of all, that the drones flew for hours, which means that they were not really toys, which pretty much removes the version of commercial drones. So I think they were fixed wing drones, probably like Arlan. Arlan has enough endurance to do that, and it's like most probable candidate for those drones that flew over Denmark, I think. It has enough endurance to fly for hours, it has enough range, and also it has a lot of protection against electronic warfare. It can fly really high, it can fly really low if needed, and it's really hard to suppress. So the only thing that works actually is manpads, air-to-air missiles. Those would work. But again, I see why the local authorities decided not to use, for example, air-to-air missiles over a huge civilian area, huge civilian airport full of airplanes and passengers. So I can see why they chose this path. If both drones were again Russian, I mean if this action was connected, right, in Denmark and in Norway, basically hitting two airports in two countries on the same night suggests planning and coordination, which is obvious. Again, we need to wait until more details revealed from the incident in Norway, because they were flying the drone for several hours, as far as I understand, and if they did, of course, it wasn't anything like Mavic, for example, because those cannot fly for hours. Most probably it was some sort of fixed-wing drone like Orlan. I don't know. I couldn't find more information on that. Extelis Venimus, did they arrest somebody? So there are reports, which I cannot confirm 100%, reports from Norway that they could have arrested two suspects that were flying commercial drone, but I cannot confirm or disconfirm this one because I just don't know. Also, The attack was not conducted physically, so basically no bombs were dropped, which points to intelligence gathering rather than sabotage this time. We're speaking about like physical sabotage. Generally speaking, sabotage was committed because we know that so many flights were either delayed or they were cancelled. Viking Ragnar, hello, my friend. It's always good to see you too. Insert name says, could they just be ordinary DJI drones? Some of those have ranges of 40 kilometers. From those DJI drones that I encountered, I can say that majority of them don't have capacity of flying for hours because, for example, in Norway and in Copenhagen, in Denmark, those airports were closed for approximately 3 hours. I'm not acquainted with such DJI drone that can fly for 2-3 hours straight, also make it all the way to the airport and back, like to disappear. So I don't think that it was like quadrocopter. I think it was fixed wing drone, or several of them. What can be so why this incident matters? First of all, I think that what happened yesterday, again, one more time, highlighted the vulnerability of civilian infrastructure in Europe, and more specifically, it highlighted the vulnerability of this infrastructure to low-cost but sophisticated Russian drone threats. And among the potential targets, we can see that there are airports, there are power stations, there are communication hubs and different storages, ammo stockpiles, power plants, basically anything that can be used to suppress or stop the Russian terrorism. That's why it's very important to understand both for us and for our allies that at this point here in Europe we need to invest more into defense that will be taking place already in the new warfare. We're talking about the warfare involving not so much, for example, Su-34, Su-37, Su-35 airplanes, fighter bombers, but rather hordes of cheap and sophisticated Russian drones that they can produce in large numbers. And basically, as we can see now, first Ukraine and then Russia is now switching to producing specifically the long-range strike drones, kamikaze drones, that just fly towards their target and basically hit it. Very important to understand for governments, very important to understand for decision makers, for politicians, that Europe needs to invest more into this new kind of warfare, and Europe needs to research this new kind of warfare. And in order to do that efficiently, they need to cooperate more with Ukrainian military, Ukrainian veterans, Ukrainian specialists, and not only Ukrainian specialists, but also with, it's very important, with foreign volunteers who run their projects to help and to support Ukraine. So European authorities should also cooperate with them, because those guys brought a lot of innovations for Ukraine. They brought a lot of new ideas that Ukrainian defenders already implemented. And we're talking about, for example, interceptor drones. We're talking about the electronic warfare measures. We're talking about, for example, Czech and Slovak experience, those civilian aircraft, light sports aircraft, basically, that were equipped with electronic warfare measures and now broadly used in Ukraine to intercept Russian drones using electronic warfare. So That experience is also extremely important because, generally speaking, there's not even so much. The very civilian aviation in Europe is developed so well, so such solutions can be installed literally on airplanes that cost probably even cheaper than Russian drones. That is why it's very, very important to react to this. It's very important to protect European skies from Russian threats that already start incurring the European airspace. What else? So again, I searched for different opinions, and different experts suggest that Europe needs a better drone detection system at airports, basically radars, cameras, signal trackers, anything that can indicate approaching drones. Again, I think that European authorities should cooperate more with Ukrainian defenders, Ukrainian air defense specifically, because Ukraine integrated a lot of systems that allow Ukraine to detect Russian drones far away. All right, so that can be potentially beneficial. Shared Nordic procedures, so Denmark, Norway, and Sweden respond in sync, which I also think very important in terms of rules of engagement, in terms of reaction, in terms of coordination of the troops on the ground and in the air as well. Safe counter-drone methods, also something that was suggested by different experts like jammers or captured drones, drones that shoot nets, drones that shoot literally at the drones, something that you could see in Ukraine. A drone armed with a freaking shotgun, that comes straight from Terminator, I think, or Mad Max. So those can be used against incurring Russian drones without endangering airplanes, without endangering civilian. Just a Dutch guy. Hello, my friend. He says this civil army cooperation is vital. Absolutely, absolutely. Light sports aircraft, for example, that we have now, that fly at speed like between 100 and 120 knots, they can be so efficient against the drones because light sport aircraft have a very, very small stall speed, so they land at 35-40 knots knots of speed with full flaps, for example, in dirty configuration. They land on the grass, and why it's important is because generally the category of pilots that have the license of light sports pilots, they're not supposed to be even trained as much as, for example, people with PPL, private pilot's license. They're not supposed to be even trained as much. Basically, they require just like so much hour of practice. They can take off, land safely, because those airplanes are considered very safe. A lot of them are equipped with ballistic parachutes, things like that. So they can be easily equipped with, electronic warfare measures. Not sure if it's a good idea to equip them with like machine guns like in the World War II or World War I. But generally speaking, even civilian defense, civilian people can be involved in operations on intercepting the Russian drone threats using civilian aircraft, which is something that can make the resistance against the Russian terror so much easier, in my opinion. Then there are there is a whole category like ultralight aircraft that fly fast enough to intercept slow enough Russian drones like Gerberas and Shahids that have enough capacity to have electronic warfare measures installed on them. And again, they are very, very safe, so they can fly in different at different altitudes, up to 10,000 feet, unless the oxygen system is installed, and also land in grass fields, dirt fields, things like that. So those are very, very good. They can be used so well against those drones, like Ukraine is demonstrating all this time. Anne asks whether it makes sense to shoot the drones with F-16s. It seems ill-matched. Absolutely. However, look, the interceptors like F-16s, like Mirage, like Gripen, they also have aviation cannon. They have automatic cannon installed on board. So you don't necessarily have to shoot like AIM 120 that costs like 5 Russian drones, right? A single missile. But you can use automatic cannon that shoots bullets that cost much less than these drones. So basically you can use jet fighters. Also, Matias says helicopters with machine guns, which Ukrainians are using, and Russians, by the way, also use those helicopters with machine guns to intercept drones. You can use those, and it doesn't matter if it's like very, very expensive. F-16 is not that expensive. Again, comparing, right? Katie, by the way, hello in the chat. Nice to see you too. Or you're using cheaper helicopter. Why it's really not cost efficient, life efficient to use fighter jets to intercept Russian drones is because they are fast. And for example, the problem with using helicopters to intercept drones is that helicopters have relatively slow speed. 120 knots, well, you can intercept just so much drones flying in your area. If you're on a fighter jet, you can intercept much more of them. Again, it depends on how many shells for your automatic cannon you have on board, because intercepting slow-flying drone on a fast-flying fighter jet requires some really, really good skills. Again, we had several cases that could be related with those airplanes literally stalling, because stall speed of a fighter jet is much higher, much bigger than the cruise speed of a drone, for example, and so it requires some specific skills of pilotage. But it's possible. It's possible, and if you're using fighter jets to intercept the drones, Mirage 2000, yeah, you can intercept much more of those Russian drones. So that could be the answer. I wonder why Russian civilian air traffic control radars have not yet been hit. These are likely serving military purposes also and should be legitimate dual-use targets. It's an interesting question. So the problem is if you hit Russian civilian air traffic control radars, that may cause victims among Russian civilian population, which is something we don't really pursue. Russians actually cause a lot of civilian casualties among their very own Russian population themselves, because as you know, when there are airstrikes happening, for example, on Russian military bases, on Russian ammo storages, Russians used to position their air defenses, for example, in the cities, and when they launched their anti-air missiles, they have those specific launchers, for example, Panzer, as far as I remember, uses those missiles with accelerators. When accelerators detach from those missiles, they fly at like houses and stuff. And besides that, Russians are also known for shooting down civilian aircraft, like the one that was flying in Azerbaijan. There was this incident earlier this year when Russian missile basically hit a civilian aircraft. So they are known for that. We don't need to help them to reduce their civilian population. They will do it themselves. Russian raiders, on the other hand, they have different capabilities. They have much broader spectrum of functions, and also Russian military raiders, they are mostly mobile, and that is why they pose much bigger danger. For example, Russian radar stations, they can be relocated from place to place. Again, they were designed with Russia being so large in mind. So they pose, I would say, bigger threat than civilian radars that are installed on their airports. Matias prop aircraft can do the job too. Exactly. Those light sports aircraft that I was talking about, they're primarily prop aircraft, so they are very, very good. As as a civilian guy, having some, I don't know, TL ultralight, for example, or something like that, I think if you would join civilian defense in your country and install that stuff on board of your aircraft, that would be interesting. But that would be also very effective, I would say. What I forgot to mention. To summarize, UFO man. Yeah, this is what it's called nowadays. To summarize what we were talking today, if these drones were Russian, which I think is obvious they were, I bet they were not Chinese. The most likely goal for their incursion to Denmark was to test defense, also to create disruption as a secondary goal, but not to cause direct damage yet. And of course, it's a reminder that drones are now a powerful tool in the gray zone between peace and war, that is also widely known as hybrid warfare. And we know that Russians are very good at waging this warfare, specifically now against Europe. And Europe has to prepare. Frequency weapons, I'm a bit skeptical about those. Like the most widespread stuff that we are using right now is literally jamming that jam GPS frequencies or Wi-Fi frequencies, right? Like those are widespread. Then there are like, those death rays, microwaves, that, microwave guns, lasers and stuff like that. I'm a bit skeptical about those. But on the other hand, we can see that some of those weapons are already being used. For example, in Serbia recently, one of those examples was used against protesters. I don't remember if it was an acoustic gun or some kind of laser gun, but it was used against the protesters very, very effectively. And also, for example, United States have a bunch of airplanes with lasers installed on them, I believe, like based on Boeing 747. and those can intercept targets at impressive range, but they require so much money to upkeep and stuff like that. Maybe it makes much more sense to keep intercepting Russian missiles with more conventional measures that we have, or Russian drones, for example, with more conventional measures that we can still produce in big numbers. Because again, Russia is not interested in creating sophisticated weapons. They need whatever is cheap, so they can build a lot of them and basically send them towards the target, expecting that at least 1 or 2 drones hit their targets and Russians will be happy. Basically, that is literally their whole military doctrine. Just have enough cannon fodder, send it into a meat assault and expect that at least a bunch of them make through. What surprises me the most is that, there are still people literally admiring Russian army. There are like those weathered experts, veterans, sitting in like studios, or talking heads like me, broadcasting on a YouTube, and they go like, those Russians are tough guys. Yeah, their army is tough and powerful. You wouldn't like to serve in that shit, trust me. This is brilliant. Every country has their criminals, but in Russia, the criminals have their own country. Oh my God, I want to make a screenshot of that, seriously. It's just so beautiful. Gotta go, doc appointment today. Be safe. I hope everything is fine. Even AI bots start to doubt that. Yeah, that's for sure. The coolest AI model I know so far is actually Glock, designed by Elon Musk, because he doesn't bullshit. Because when you ask, do you think that Elon Musk spreads disinformation? Grok replies you honestly that, yeah, there are cases when Elon Musk was spreading disinformation on Twitter. He's just so good. Oh my God. Elon Musk is basically like VVN, Grok basically is like VVN, like Elon Musk's daughter. It's when you see that parents and their kids are completely different. Imagine you, Mercado, and other of the enforcers on a boat catching fish. I can imagine that, my friend. But it's not time to relax yet. What is going on? So, Alice, briefly, there were drones spotted over Oslo and Copenhagen tonight. A lot of airplanes, a lot of flights were delayed. We're talking about hundreds of them. And 3 hours later, the drones disappeared. Police and military decided not to shoot them down. Over Copenhagen, over Oslo Gardermoen, I think the operators of those drones were detained, actually. But at this point, we are trying to find some kind of more details on what happened in Norway specifically, and generally some new explanations, some new details from the Danish officials. Grok is programmed to be biased for Almo. I agree, he's programmed, but for some reason he says proper things from time to time, because I know that they patch Grok often when Grok says that, yeah, Twitter indeed was used to spread Russian disinformation, to spread Russian propaganda. It was used by Russian bot farms. Yeah, you're right. And when they see that in the office on Twitter, they usually just start patching it. It's so funny. I prefer Llama. Meta trained it on Facebook, and it has more natural communications. But who knows what Zuk is going to do with it? Llama is good. I think compared to Llama is good, and I think Deep Search is also good in terms of communications. OpenAI is very good. Yeah, but again, it depends what you need it for. If you need it for like coding, I think there are better solutions than Llama, but I can be wrong. He does tell the truth, but it starts around getting away from it. Yeah, I agree. Another, just a Dutch guy, we need a NATO meetup in Germany. Many great fellows there. I agree on that. I met quite a few fellows here in Hamburg, in like Nettetal. Yeah, and they are all great. Also like Essen area, yeah, they're great people. We gotta make some kind of meetup. I completely agree on that. So if you tell Grok he's wrong, he'll recalculate. Yeah. Were they personal drones or military? Considering that those drones were able to stay in the air for several hours, I believe that they were military, because I don't really know any type of drones. Let's say they might exist, but I didn't see them. All right, I don't have such experience. So I don't think that drones like DJI or OTEL can stay in the air for such a long time. So I believe that they were fixed-wing drones. But again, authorities don't tell much. For example, remember last week Russian MiG-31s incurred Estonia. And one specific thing, for example, I don't know if you noticed, what the authorities said. The authorities said that those airplanes were intercepted, right? That they sent like F-35 or something like that to intercept Russian MiG-31s, and they were intercepted and they left. So one thing that I noticed, for example, I don't know if you noticed that too, and actually a lot of people talk about it. If we look at, that's an actual photo of one of those MiG-31s, check out that it only has 3 missiles. So one attachable point for missiles is empty. And those are anti-air missiles, all right? Those are, I believe, like R-73 or something like that. Maybe there's something we don't know. I have no idea, seriously. GPT also checks again if you point out an error. I know from all the time. The other day I asked ChatGPT in GTA 5, what is the analog of Glock? Because I know that there's 2 guns in this game that closely represent Glock, but they were kind of modified by the developers. And it's like, well, the default pistol is Glock. Default pistol is based on Beretta 92. And when I said that to ChatGPT, he was, I was wrong. The missile fell off. Could be the case. They don't fall off that easily. I know about different cases of literally bombs falling off from Russian aircraft, but anti-aircraft missiles, I don't know. But that's interesting. If you have any ideas on why Russian aircraft incurring Estonian airspace could have one missile missing, let me know, because I'm curious myself. Glock is a fun gun. I agree. I watched different body cam footage the other day, and in numerous videos that I saw, it jammed. And it jammed in situations that were like absolutely lethal for the officers. And I asked ChatGPT actually about this. I said that I watched a lot of body cam footage that shows Glocks jamming, in different inconvenient situations. Like, is it common? And actually, ChatGPT replied that no, it's not the case, because Glock pistols were actually selected by, for example, United States police, patrol police, because they are so reliable, and that's interesting. On the other hand, of course, there are different reasons why the pistol can jam. It's literally either you don't care for it enough, you don't oil it, you don't clean it, or also there are other cases when, for example, you don't grip it properly and it jams literally because of that. So can be the case as well. Probably FE ammo. Yes, however, like all the information that I read was saying that service ammo is always the best quality available. I just don't know. One thing I know though, I had opportunity to fire Glock in like 2021. So we had this runaway member of parliament who actually was eliminated, I think last year. Runaway member of parliament who went to Russia, like big pro-Russian asshole. And before he became a big pro-Russian asshole, he actually served in the military, and like stories, between countries are so much similar, like Douglas McGregor, for example. So the Ministry of Interior has seized his guns. He had 2 pistols that were presented to him as a gift earlier for his service, and eventually they revoked those handguns. And one of the handguns was APS. APS is automatic pistol of Stechkin. That is Soviet-made stuff. Very interesting thing, by the way. It's the only pistol that was actually developed in the Soviet Union, not like snatched, all right, like Walther PPK for Makarov pistol, but literally developed actually by Russians. And the second pistol was actually Glock. I don't remember if it was like Gen 2 or Gen 3. I don't remember. I feel lost. I think it was like Gen 2. And that bastard used to jam so bad. Oh my god, we went to the firing range. I actually have a picture with those handguns. Actually, let me see if I can find it. Okay, where can it be? Max. We went to the shooting range. Okay, bro, I will do it. We went to the shooting range and tried to shoot those pistols. Actually, the coolest thing about that was those handguns were revoked from a corrupted and shady member of parliament who supported Russia, and they were gifted to 2 commanders in my brigade, 2 battalion commanders. Those were really worthy people, right? Was it 2021 or 2022? I cannot remember, but I had this photo somewhere here. Just a second. I remember I sent it to my bro. Can't find it, unfortunately. Yeah, I have it here. Yeah, just a minute, my friends. I had to show it to you. There it is. So that one is actually... I cannot read the is it Gen 2 or 3? Let me know if you recognize it, all right? Because this one, the Glock used to jam all the time. And actually, I was surprised. I expected to finally enjoy enjoy shooting the Glock, but didn't really happen. The guys say that the battalion commanders, they told me that both handguns were so dirty. Like, nobody knows what that idiot, that their previous owner, did with them, but looks like he never cleaned them. I don't know how else he used them, in what specific perverted way, but they were so dirty, and they spent a lot of time literally cleaning those handguns. To me, all Glocks look the same here, actually. I don't know. How close do you an ultralight aircraft approach a drone to jam the signals, and how long has a GPS GLONASS by 5 signal to be jammed to be effective? Don't the drones have memory to bridge lack of data? From what I know, there is different range of the different radius for that electronic warfare equipment. It relies heavily on the power that this aircraft can generate, and also I think it's not made to have specifically big range, because electronic warfare can also interrupt with other equipment on the ground. So that is one thing. Second thing, you asked about how long has a GPS Wi-Fi signal be jammed. Long enough to make this drone land on the ground in the field somewhere. I know that even if they have inertial navigation system, still there are jammers that inject errors in the system and make this drone literally just land. So I cannot tell you exactly the time and the range because I don't have that information. Most probably it's even like classified. So excuse me, that's the answer. That's all I can say. What software Ukraine uses on its drones? Some open source. Yes, it's an open source software. I think it's widely available out there. Why this software is used is because it's basically standardized. So when you have a lot of drones with made with different equipment and stuff, but you can still install the same software and improve the drone's capabilities, and basically all the drone operators that are trained to operate those drones, they can be trained to operate the same software, which makes it much better, much easier to train all the people. That's actually one of the things that Russians introduced before Ukraine, because in Ukraine we had all sorts of drones from Japan, from China, from like Europe, and also custom-made drones. Russians had like three main types, literally like Zala, Lancet, Arlan, and something else. And basically they could, for example, take a bunch of individuals from like Buryatia or Yakutia, teach them how to operate those drones and scale the production. And the very scaling of production was the biggest problem for Ukraine, which we solved, luckily. But it was a problem. Standardization is very important, I think. Once the war is over, build up a commercial drone industry. Ukraine is already building such industry, I think. Recently, like 2 days ago or a day ago, President Zelensky said that we are exporting those drones because we have a big stockpile of them, and we can allow ourselves to literally sell them abroad. Any chance it was the USA flying drones at the airports in Denmark? If there were military drones, I think the Danish authorities would be warned about that. Because one way or another, we can love Trump. I don't know if we can love Trump. We can hate Trump, but speaking of the military, speaking of the NATO coordination, such things are usually reported between the armies. So like they have the same headquarters, basically. So if those drones were supposed to fly there, but again, guys, why would military fly a bunch of drones over a civilian airfield? I think it's not the case. The only reason you do that is if you want to cause chaos, if you want to disrupt the civilian flights, then you would do that. I cannot find another reason. By the way, have you seen Ukrainian Toloka drone? It's so freaking huge. It's huge and Freudist, I would say. If you didn't see it, I think I have it right here. So recently in Kyiv, Ukrainian designers presented the biggest Ukrainian drone built so far, called Toloka. Of course, it's the naval drone, and it's the biggest naval drone in its family. And I would say that it's also the most Freudist drone I have ever seen in my entire life. Yeah, but generally speaking, this stuff is impressive in terms of its specifications, in terms of what it can do, because it has a range of 2,000 kilometers. It can destroy nuclear submarines. It can do whatever. Electronic warfare. It has hybrid engine, meaning that it has batteries. It has electric engine, but it also has internal combustion engine. So this stuff is impressive. I don't know what kind of equipment they installed on board besides all that, but yeah, this shit is enough to scare the living crap out of Kremlinoids, I think. Basically, you know what? It looks like Putin, only bigger, I think. It looks like Russian dictator. Only much larger. I should actually ask the Ukrainian designers why the hell did they make a drone that looks like Putin. Is Jesus coming? Hopefully. Has some suppressive claims but requires a specialized sub to carry it. Yeah. I think they have some equipment like literally installed on board. But as we understand, a lot of information about it is classified as well. Is this the dildo of consequences people talk about, Starsky? That's exactly the dildo of consequences, my friend. That's exactly the case. It looks slow. Well, on the other hand, submarines or torpedoes, because this stuff looks like one, they can be extremely fast underwater. But there's a problem, because when you make an underwater object move really fast, it produces cavitation. Cavitation is basically a lot of bubbles surrounding this object, and it makes this object be localized easily. Those bubbles create noise, and you want to actually avoid that noise. So that there is a very, very limited speed that a submarine, for example, can travel underwater without getting exposed, for that only reason. There's a rumor that Russians have a bunch of hypersonic torpedoes. I think it's like, it's like Oreshnik, the weapon of mass disinformation. But there is a rumor that they have those torpedoes that can actually travel really fast under the water, because they create this effect of cavitation, and they use it to move faster underwater. They kind of introduced those torpedoes in like 80s, 90s already back then. Some of them allegedly carry nuclear explosives, nuclear charges, but I would be very, very skeptical generally about Russian capabilities, all right? Shkval, yes, thank you very much. That's the name. Like, we're not even sure if they even used, all right? I think it's anything faster than about 8 knots cavitation starts. Something like that. We gotta ask sailors, like actual people who operate vessels, because squall torpedoes is fast but probably can't track target. From what I remember reading about its specifications, it's not a guided torpedo. I think it's like just point and shoot, something like that. Speaking of 8 knots, apparently this drone, the Toloka 1000 that I showed you on the picture, apparently it can travel faster than that if needed, because when you need to make like, I don't know, when you need to develop a good speed, for example, to avoid like threat or something like that, different situations. Of course, it can travel faster than that, but generally, if you want to stay undetected or less detected, you gotta travel at around 7, 8 knots. The slower, the better. Speed at which cavitation starts depends on the propeller, depth, thermal water, all sorts of stuff. Exactly, Newman. Also on the very shape of your vessel, because, for example, when you reverse your boat, it can produce cavitation at, I don't know, like 3 knots already, depending on its shape, because it's not designed to travel backwards. So it depends also on the shape. The Toloka itself looks very smooth, like a true dildo of consequence. So I don't think that it will produce a lot of noise, a lot of cavitation, but I don't know the exact specifications for that. I start cavitating on my way home from the pub. I start cavitating as soon as I wake up, actually, because I woke up like 2 hours ago and I literally had absolutely nothing to eat since the very morning. It's already like 12 p.m. very soon. Operator starving here, my friends. Speaking of stealth, have drone blade design lessened noise or does not matter? I think it does. Actually, for example, when like imagine a submarine. There's a lot of different equipment installed on it. So submarines have computers with databases of acoustic signature of different vessels. For example, you detect a sound coming from, like, I don't know, bearing 270. And by analyzing the sound, by analyzing the number of blades on the propeller, you can tell approximately what sort of vessel it is. Because Russians, for example, spent years, as well as NATO troops, spent years studying each other's ships, aircraft carriers, etc., and they recorded all the data. So now when you hear some specific sound produced by some specific blades of specific size and specific number of those blades, you can actually tell more or less precisely what kind of ship is that. Is that like an aircraft carrier called Nimitz, or that is a submarine called Moskva? All right, so there is such technology, and it's actually very old already. Yeah, each individual vessel has a unique signature. Yeah, that's right. You can actually tell. There's a torpedo developed in the 80s, 90s, joint UK-US, that was designed to cruise at a fairly low speed until it got within a few hundred meters of its target. Then it would accelerate. Mercado, hello, brother. Hello, hello. So good to see you, my friend. Not much. We're talking about the drones that were flying 2 nights over Copenhagen and Oslo, Gardermoen. So just that. How are you, my friend? I hope you're fine. Well, the Moskva is a reef now. Oh, yeah. One thing I would really like to know is whether the weapons that were on board of Moskva, whether they were excavated, whether they were snatched by Russians, whether they were. Oh my God, this English language is so good. Whether they were returned back. Because who knows? What if there's like a nuclear warhead, still there on the bottom of the sea, in close proximity to Ukrainian border? How difficult it is to detect a drone operator close to a European airport? Several things. First, radio reconnaissance, because if we're talking about drones, we are talking about two specific and most used frequencies, Wi-Fi frequencies, used to control those drones. So if you have proper equipment, if your police or most probably country intelligence unit is equipped with those, you can tell exactly where the signal is coming from. So it's very easy. And also cameras, also visual observation. Denmark is not an extremely huge country, so yeah, I think it's possible to find them very, very close. The distance for example, hotel drone, oh my God, was it like 6 or 7 miles? So if you know approximate range, let's say like 10, 12 kilometers around the area, you can, 20 kilometers around the area, you can approximately tell the possible location where those operators can be located. And then you can listen or analyze the emitted signals in that specific area. So it's not that hard at all. Majority of Russian spies, for example, they were those that used, radio electronics to transmit their data in the times before the internet emerged on planet Earth. Actually, they were exposed just like that, because whatever electronic you have that allows remote control of other gadget or thing or whatever, it's emitting signal. And if you have proper equipment, you can receive that signal as well and actually find the location. Some newer jet submarines use a pump jet propulsor because it's more efficient and increases useful speed before cavitation, but they are heavy and complex. If we're talking about heavy and complex things, then I don't really think that Russia is using those much. Have you heard about that recent case when Ukrainian hackers actually exposed the blueprint of new Russian submarine? It was so good. It was just brilliant. Imagine you're designing a submarine, and submarine itself is supposed to be completely classified, and you design it in secrecy, your enemy should not know anything about it. And then boom, you have like full blueprint of submarine, the scheme of the personnel on board, and even the requirements for those personnel. That's just so good. That was perfect. Unless the drone uses mobile network. I agree on that. Theoretically, what you can do if the drone uses mobile network. From my standpoint of a person not extremely acquainted with modern technologies, right? I know how some specific things work, but generally I think not much. Theoretically, if you have a bunch of mobile stations, mobile towers, you can triangulate a signal, but you need to understand what specific signal that is, what specific transmitter it is. So it's like you have a huge amount of data in your specific area, and in order to understand what sort of drone that is, you have to grab data and analyze it very, very fast in a short period of time, and then try to suppress it. But maybe James could explain it better than me, actually. Generally, you can triangulate mobile signals from approximate area. I think it's completely possible. Police does that all the time. I gotta ask James. Are the Russian drones using Starlink for navigation? In fact, yes. In fact, we already discovered a bunch of Shaheds. A lot of them were intercepted or jammed, and they landed in the field with literally Starlinks installed on top of them. How crazy was that? Any chance they were testing an AI swarm, so no operator needed? That could be one of the versions, actually. I think that could be completely possible. Military drones tend not to return to launch point at signal loss because it could reveal location to adversary. So if the drones are not supposed to return to the launch point, then of course they were transmitting signal. Alternatively, they could land somewhere in the secluded area, and then, for example, a human personnel could be used to go there and take the data from those drones. That could be used as alternative. And third thing, they could fly to Kaliningrad, and disappear in the Russian airspace. And not a single NATO fighter jet would go there. So that could be third option. Let's imagine they flew straight to Kaliningrad. What happens next? On the UNSC, Russia, that stupid freaking Nebenzia, will be again accused that Russia was violating European airspace. Nebenzia would say, "You are Russophobic, you cannot prove anything." And basically, that's it. Basically, that's all you can do. So I believe it happened just like that. Using VPN would make it impossible to trace the operator. Not really. Using VPN it makes it impossible to trace, I don't know, Scott Ritter looking for some specific content online, for example. However, he was traced anyways. Using VPN only masks your path between your computer and the server. That's the only thing it does. It sends your data not directly from server to your computer and back. It sends it through a series of proxy servers, changing them during this process, and you are harder to detect. But if we are talking about drones that are controlled through radio signal, through Wi-Fi signal, that's a different question. Like Wi-Fi doesn't matter much. There's literally you with physical control console, right, for this drone. And there is a drone, and you are emitting and receiving signal between each others. Also, if this drone is programmed and it just literally flies there and just returns to like Kaliningrad and lands there, it's a different question, and it doesn't require physical presence of operators on the ground at all. So they could literally launch those drones flying at an altitude of like 15 meters above the ground or above the sea, right? They could enter the Danish airspace, they could fly over the area, complete their mission, which could be, again, disruption or sabotage or reconnaissance. They could collect all the data, all the emitters, all the sorts of electronic warfare used against it, and then they could return and land in Kaliningrad, and Russians would say, what drones? Fuck you. We don't know anything, Which I think that, like, most probably that's exactly what happened. Can you just not check for SIMs that relatively often change cell towers due to speed? You can literally, look, the way GSM signal works, all right, is when you use Google Navigator to travel somewhere, if you are unlucky enough to do that, like me, you often see, for example, reports that there is a traffic jam at this road, right? How do they define those traffic jams? Like, how do they make it happen? So there's a bunch of mobile towers that receive a bunch of signals, a bunch of signatures from this specific direction. And they can analyze in which direction the traffic is moving and where you have the biggest concentration of those signatures. Same with, for example, military intelligence. You can tell where exactly you have those. I remember like 10 years ago, there was a dude, hey Rick, hello brother. What's with my voice? Oh my God. Hello brother, how are you? I hope that you're doing well. 10 years ago, maybe even more, there was a dude who literally took like a trolley, dropped a bunch of mobile phones in it, and literally started like moving forward and backward down the road, causing a traffic jam on the Google map. So this is the way it works. You can tell the specific location of any phone on Earth, basically, based on that. But the question is, what if those aircraft were programmed like Russians do often with the Orlan aircraft? So they would, using their inertial navigation system, they would fly towards a specific area, turn off all the receivers, make a bunch of circles, a bunch of maneuvers, then using the same inertial navigation system, they would return and then turn on their communications back and land safely in Kaliningrad. This is an unusual stream time. My friend, this is because the Earth is round, and we have friends not only in the United States and Canada, not only in that part of the world, but also in Europe, in Asia, in Australia, in New Zealand. And I think they don't sleep yet, because in Sydney it's just around 8 p.m. Yeah, and for some reason I cannot explain, we don't often stream for our friends from that part of the world as well. Belarus bought a bunch of Polish SIM cards. Those were used in drones found in Poland. Belarusians actually travel quite often to Poland, or at least they did. They used to travel to Poland and back, as far as I remember, like years ago. So those SIM cards were actually easy to obtain, but they are generally easy to obtain. You just you don't even have to send like actual agent from Russia to Poland to buy those SIM cards. You gotta like hire a dude, some low life, pay him 200 euros and ask him to buy a bunch of SIM cards, I think. In Germany, it's a different question, because, for example, in Poland, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that you can still buy as many cards as you need and basically use them. In Germany, you need to present your ID, you need to present the like registration and things like that. And if you want to use your contract with this mobile provider, you should be also a resident of Germany. So it requires a lot of hassle. But in Poland, I think it's different. Guys, correct me if I'm wrong, all right? Because I remember that you could literally go and buy SIM cards in any Polish store, but it was like 10 years ago. How it is now, I'm not really sure. But in Ukraine, it's true. In Ukraine, you go to like supermarkets, you just pay just small money, all right? Just small money. It doesn't cost much at all. And you buy like packs of those SIMs. You can get prepaid cards without ID in some stores. Just the big major ones in Germany complain about it. I remember. So you need to have your ID with you, as far as I remember. As far as I remember my experience like 2 years ago. So you gotta have ID, because in order to activate your phone and use it, you need to have your konto, your account on your app. Like it's a must. All right. So this is how it works. It's like you need to have ID, and generally, I think it's a proper thing to buy ID based on your passport. I think in terms of security, again, I might step on somebody's freedoms. I'm sorry, it's unintentional. But as a former cop, I would say that I completely support that, because if you have security, you have freedom. Maybe a lot of people will disagree with me. Let me know. I got one a few years ago in MediaMarkt without ID. They wanted ID, but I said I didn't have any. Yeah. You have to register. That's the thing. They might kind of sell you if you convince them, and if you persuaded them, it means that you have impressive skill of communication, my friend. But in the end, you will have to have your konto and activate everything. I'm a prepaid SIM user and nobody has a clue who I am. It costed €8. Ah, but it's in the Netherlands, right? I think. I don't know. SIM cards are often used by Russian social network, disinfo servers. Oh yeah, they have ports for like hundreds of those SIM cards, and those Russian bot farms that were, by the way, discovered in huge numbers in Ukraine as well. What is happening? We were discussing those drones that were flying over Copenhagen and Oslo Gardermoen tonight, causing hundreds of flights being cancelled, causing huge delays. And basically what we know as of this moment, again, I gotta check news actually, but later after the stream, 2 people were reportedly detained in Oslo, 2 operators. As for Copenhagen, those drones left the airspace and most probably they landed somewhere in Kaliningrad. Oh, that's interesting. Since 2019, I had to show ID at Kyivstar when getting a SIM card. Last time I got one in Sweden, I didn't need to show ID. Can't remember the year. That's interesting. Well, I don't know how it works in Sweden or Netherlands, but in Germany, like you need to have ID to activate it, to be able to use it. And what else? As for Kyivstar, I never showed my ID. I don't know. Maybe it's because you have a contract. Maybe not. I don't know your situation, unfortunately. Like me as a Ukrainian, like I could buy actually as many cards as I wanted. For example, we did some specific operations in the Donbass when we tried to fish the Russian commanders and generally Russian terrorists and bring them to the Ukrainian territory. And in order to do that, we had a bunch of fake accounts of beautiful ladies. We had a lady that was their voice. She talked on the phone with Russians, and we tried to like fish them from the uncontrolled territory. And for that purpose, we used a bunch of cards that we would buy just like in a supermarket, you know. And we had like, sometimes we had like 100 of them. Yeah, but it was in the times when the content created on the internet was actually written or typed by people, by living human beings. Charging prepaid does require a bank account, so that's the ID. Not only that, for example, my prepaid that I have in Germany, it requires ID to activate it. I can charge it using like PayPal, which is really cool. I can charge it using my Ukrainian bank card. Doesn't flying a drone from Copenhagen to Kaliningrad require a combustion engine? 100%, my friend. And again, we're returning to the fact that the drones were flying in the Danish airspace for hours. So it's obvious that they didn't have electric motors, but instead they had, most obviously, they had combustion engines. I guess fishing Russians with women accounts is the most effective way. Uh, who knows? Maybe they prefer men. I have no idea. But yeah, we tried. Um, I can tell you already that well, specifically my group, for example, wasn't really successful because we only managed to fish like local terrorists, okay, like local people. In Donbass, it was in Krasnogor, it was in Kurakhove, by the way. Locals who actually had connections with Russian terrorists on the uncontrolled side. But physically, they were present on the controlled territory in Kurakhove, and we captured quite a few of them and had fun interrogating them. But I remember in the headquarters, like in the middle of the night, I'm sleeping like a baby, and I hear through the wall, Kroha, the call sign Kroha, our female officer, literally like this on the phone, speaking all night with Russians. And she pretended to be like a girl from like Mariupol or like Berdyansk or like Selidova or whatever. And she would talk to them like that all night. In the morning, I come to see her and she's like, bro, I need a hug, literally, help me, because I want to shoot myself. And we hug, and I'm like, don't shoot yourself, we still need you. It was crazy. Imagine talking to like those fuckers like whole night on the phone. I would literally feel I would feel raped after that. Mentally, physically, I don't know. You have won a lifetime supply of vodka. Vodka and air conditioners. Yeah, that would work. Absolutely. Oh, my friend. Hello from Stockholm. Tell me this. Did you encounter any details, any rumors, okay, not rumors, but any confirmed facts that there are also drone sightings over Sweden tonight? Because there are some, but some of them refer to sightings that were made earlier, and some of them look like fake, like false alarm. Please let me know. Just like dealing with Trump, you just use a young, pretty woman and he'll listen. I bet he will. Do you know Groha's status now? I don't really know. I gotta check out. We didn't talk since like 2015 or 16. So a lot of time passed, unfortunately. Haven't seen any news about it yet. Because in Ukrainian news, there are reports that those drones were also spotted over Sweden, and I see a lot of such reports. But when I check them, I don't see any confirmation. And some of them refer to like very, very old reports. So I need somebody on the ground to tell me about this. Nothing near Göteborg, but we got diverted flies there. Okay. If it flew over my place towards Gardermoen, it was coming from the south. As far as I remember, location of Oslo Gardermoen, don't ask me how I remember it, where I remember it from. Um, yeah, I think they could fly in from the south, but we need details. We need details from the authorities. Not much has been revealed as of this moment, unfortunately. I suppose that reports could be suppressed. We do not actually trust our media there. It's a proper thing to do. Aha, only heard about Kastrup and Oslo airports, nothing in Sweden. Yeah. Yeah, it's just, it's very important for me to understand because we have like, for example, I will read you the report that we had this morning. Yesterday evening, unknown drones were noticed over the military objects in Denmark, Sweden, and Norway, and also in the sea between Denmark and Sweden. The source is like general purpose information, general purpose informational social media community, like, you know. Besides that, by the way, my friends, I must tell you this: Russians had a very, very happy night tonight because there were multiple strikes in Kazan, in Yelabuga, in other places. Also, Jimmy Kimmel Live returns back to the ABC on Tuesday, which is great. I don't know if you followed this one, but it's good to know. And basically, yeah, I have several new reports mentioning Sweden. Nothing, no details, nothing special. But I tried to trace the origin of these updates, and I could not find anything. Rick, be safe, my friends. Be safe and prosperous, and fun and cool as you usually are. See you later. 2 foreign nationals arrested for drone flying in Oslo. Yeah, that's something that I want to know more about, but couldn't see much news. Guys, if you're reading like local news in your language also, please let me know, because those news emerge faster than generally news in English. My prediction is the economically screwed and Putin should not walk near a window. Russia won't last till Christmas. My thoughts. I think Russia will definitely last past Christmas. The biggest problems they will start facing only in the middle 2026 if they continue the current dynamics of spending on military, on their invasion, on building drones and weaponry. So I think middle 2026, middle next year. And that's not very far from now. So I think that's the reason why Putin is trying to find new solutions for this situation. He understands that he doesn't have much time now. Aha, the arrested are both from Singapore. That's interesting. Just a second. Let's check this out because it's important. Sweden drones. All right. So what I found is nothing. Like the freshest updates I have from the international media are like 4 hours old, so I cannot tell. And unfortunately, we also don't have anything about this one. Just a second, guys. No mentions of Singapore in my media list either, so I cannot say. Hey, Vanya, how are you? How are you doing? I hope everything's good. Haven't seen you for a while, by the way. We got a call. We gotta keep in touch. Yeah, I don't know about Singapore. I haven't seen any new updates about this one. Most probably the investigation is ongoing. Most probably there will be some briefing, maybe even later this evening. Maybe, but we will see. We have disappeared. My friend, everyone has disappeared. This new YouTube algorithm makes it so you literally cannot see any updates from the channels you're subscribed to, and everyone I know disappeared. A lot of new guys emerged. You know, for example, right now I open my YouTube, and on the front page I have plenty of updates from people I don't know, either I don't know, streaming, playing, whatever, with 3-5 viewers watching them at the same time, or for example with 3 videos on their channel viewed 150 times. And I'm trying to understand the logic behind it. Maybe there's something I don't understand about new trends on YouTube, but it's kind of interesting. I haven't seen your streams or your videos for a while. The only thing I can see is literally updates from your community posts. Basically, that's it. YouTube is American, it needs to please the Orange King, which is something I already talked about earlier this year, and I said that there might be a chance that bloggers like Jake Bro, like me, like Tom Powell, like you name it, that they might eventually disappear from YouTube. There is such a chance because current administration in the United States, unfortunately, doesn't like to be criticized in the media. You cannot enter the United States if you have some specific picture portraying, for example, J.D. Vance, right? So that's a reality, the reality that we should all face and be ready to face it. So what do I do if my channel disappears? Let me think. What do I do? I have a Blue Sky account, and if that one disappears, I will go to Denmark. I will stream from George's bedroom, for example, or closet. I will close myself there. I will stream from his closet, eat his pizza. He won't mind. YouTube wants me to get laid. You're lucky. My YouTube is crazy. Substack. Oh, thank you so much. That's a great idea, actually. I think I can have an account there. Sometimes YouTube is deleting my comments. Brigitte, sometimes YouTube is deleting my own comments on my own channel. So it's not only you, it's just the way it is today. Making OnlyFans. I already have one. It's for premium subscribers. I don't know. My YouTube is completely crazy. I mean, the front page, the stuff that I see every day. Sometimes it works like this. Is, for example, you want to learn a recipe for like cherry cake, okay? And you Google cherry cake on YouTube, and it gives you a bunch of like results. Starting that day, 90% of content you see on YouTube is cherry cake, and 10% are some absolutely unknown people with like 4 subscribers. And you're trying to understand what to do with that. Like, why do you need YouTube at all? How it works. And then you Google for like how to cook redfish, all right? And next day, 90% of content you see is everything redfish related, and 10% some people from like, I don't know, Bangladesh, Alaska, and Estonia, who have like 5 subscribers, and they speak about, I don't know, building feeders for birds. What the hell? I don't know how it works. National news in Denmark. It's likely state operator with the arrow pointing at Russia. However, with Singaporean, it smells more like China. Whew. So currently, at this point, I am trying to understand when we will receive more details on that. It's not really to understand why would Russia send drones, but it's hard to understand when exactly we will see more details on that, because who can tell? It's like if it's like usual SOP, as it usually happens in state establishments, then they have to collect the data, process it, come up with some results, send it to their like boss on the local level. Local boss will send it to like the state level. The state level will also analyze, understand, consult with different experts, and then based on that they will decide what to report to the top decision makers, to like the government. And then the government should decide what to report to the people. So it takes a lot of time, and the chain of command, probably, I don't know, this very process, right, looks approximately like this. So it takes a lot of time. They're mixing stories. The Singaporeans are most likely tourists and different things. Yeah, I think the same. It's like with Sweden, because in some updates I saw that Swedish airspace was violated on like September 9th. But then I noticed that it was actually September 9th of 2024. So it's a completely different stuff. So I have no idea. And we have Sergei Osman here. So this dude in the chat here, all right? We served together. And I think among all of the guys in my company, I think this one always deserved a lot of respect because he always cared for his physical form. He was always honest. He would speak you the truth in your eyes, whether you liked it or not. And generally, I'm really happy that I have such friends right now. That's, by the way, one of my service mates that I found here in Europe. Am I okay to post operator.starsky's Polish Pickles video on my channel? I don't see reason why I would ban you from doing this. I don't see why. Thank you for good words, brother. Bro, thank you for your service. Thank you for your service and for being a decent person. Okay, yes, I can see you, my friend. Please provide me with the local news if you have those. I would be happy to read that. But please send them to my email. It's there in the description of this channel. Please send it there. I will check it out because I need to find something in like local language, but I'm too stupid to do that. With that, my dear friends, I will be wrapping this up. Thank you so much for watching. I will probably go and have breakfast now. I think I deserve it. Thank you so much, everyone who supports my channel and helps to keep it running. Thank you so much, all of my moderators, providing us with security guarantees in this chat. Thank you big time, Newman and Ali and Katie. As always, I'm always happy to see all three of you in the chat at the same time. And thank you so much for supporting my country and my people and our democratic values that unite us in this fight against Russian terrorism. Thank you so much. We'll see you later. Be safe. Don't forget that if you have any updates on what was happening, what's related to those drones, don't hesitate to send them on my email. I will check it out. And we'll see you later. Be safe and bye-bye.